Imagine breaking down a wall in your own basement and finding a tunnel that leads to a city built for 20,000 people. Or draining a pond your grandparents warned you never to swim in and finding a chamber carved by human hands 2,000 years ago. These are not movie plots. They happened. Right now, buried beneath jungle floors, carved into mountainsides, and hidden in forgotten archives, there are objects and structures that simply should not exist. At least, not according to everything we think we know. In 1936, near the city of Baghdad, workers uncovered a small clay jar containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod, sealed with asphalt. On its own, it looked unremarkable, until German archaeologist Wilhelm König proposed something extraordinary. This 2,000-year-old jar may have functioned as a galvanic cell, in other words, a battery. Fill it with vinegar or any mildly acidic liquid, and the copper-iron reaction produces a small electric charge. Researchers have built working replicas that generate just under a volt. The question is not whether it could produce electricity. Replicas prove that it can. But why it was built at all? No wires, no bulbs, no clear devices from the era have been found that would have used this charge. Was it used for electroplating gold onto jewelry? For medical treatments, delivering mild shocks the way some ancient cultures used electric fish? Or was it never a battery at all, but a container for sacred scrolls, its cylindrical shape misread by modern eyes searching for modern explanations? Here's the strange part. If this really was a battery, someone in ancient Mesopotamia understood a principle of physics that Europe wouldn't rediscover for another 1,800 years, and then simply stopped using it. No follow-up, no evolution of the design. Just one jar in one museum, keeping its secret sealed as tightly as the asphalt that once closed it shut. For centuries, villagers near Zhejiang, China, knew of deep ponds in the earth near their homes. Bottomless, they said, and best avoided. In 1992, when the ponds were finally drained, what emerged was not a natural cavity, but an underground complex of colossal proportions. Nearly 30 man-made caverns, some spanning thousands of square meters, with ceilings and walls carved in perfectly parallel chisel marks. The engineering is staggering. The caves feature load-bearing pillars, sloped ceilings for structural integrity, and drainage systems that have kept them intact for what researchers estimate could be over 2,000 years. And yet, nothing. No historical text mentions them. No local legend explains their origin. No tool marks match any known excavation technique from a documented dynasty. An estimated 1 million cubic meters of rock were removed, by hand, in near total secrecy. And then the project was abandoned, its purpose never recorded anywhere. Picture it. An entire workforce, generation after generation, chiseling by torchlight in total silence about what they were building. And somehow, not one worker ever talked. Not one record survived. Whoever commanded this labor force erased themselves as thoroughly as they carved the stone. In 1929, in the depths of the Topkapi Palace archives in Istanbul, a fragment of gazelle skin parchment was rediscovered. Drawn in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral Piri Reis, it depicted the coastlines of Europe, Africa, and South America. Accurate enough to unsettle modern cartographers, since Reis claimed to have compiled it from older, now lost, source maps, some allegedly dating back to the era of Alexander the Great. What draws the most attention is the map's southern edge, which some researchers claim resembles the coastline of Antarctica, a continent that would not be officially discovered until 1820, and whose coast lies buried under ice that, at the time the map was allegedly sourced, may not have formed yet. Mainstream cartographers argue it's more likely a distorted rendering of the South American coast curving eastward. But the debate has never fully closed, in part because the source maps Piri Reis claimed to copy from have never been found. So think about that for a second. We're not even looking at the original mystery. We're looking at a 500-year-old copy of maps that were already ancient when Piri Reis got his hands on them, and the originals are gone. Whatever knowledge they held vanished with them. Somewhere in a Yale University vault sits a book that no living person can read, not because it's written in a dead language, because it's written in no language anyone has ever identified. Named after the Polish book dealer who acquired it in 1912, the Voynich Manuscript is, by every technical measure, real. Carbon dating places its vellum pages in the early 1400s. What is not real, or rather not understood, is its content. Roughly 240 pages filled with an unknown script describing unidentifiable plants, strange astrological diagrams, and bathing women connected by tubes to unknown vessels. For over a century, cryptographers, linguists, and even wartime codebreakers who cracked Enigma have tried to decode it. Some believe it is an elaborate hoax, a medieval con designed to fool a wealthy buyer. Others argue the statistical patterns in the text match the structure of real language too closely to be gibberish. Modern computational linguistics has narrowed some possibilities, suggesting proto-Romance origins or an invented, constructed language, but no full translation has ever been verified. It remains the most famous undeciphered document in the world. Unlike the others on this list, this mystery is not thousands of years old, but its origins are almost as obscure. In 1980, a granite monument appeared in Elbert County, Georgia, commissioned by a man who used only the pseudonym R.C. Christian. Standing over 5 meters tall, the 4 main slabs were inscribed in 8 languages with 10 guiding principles for humanity, covering population control, governance, and unity, earning it the nickname America's Stonehenge. The identity of R.C. Christian was never confirmed. The organization he claimed to represent left no other trace. For 4 decades, the stones stood as a magnet for speculation, conspiracy theories, and pilgrimage. Then, in the early hours of July 6, 2022, security footage caught it. A flash, a boom, and one of the towering slabs simply gone, blown apart before sunrise. Investigators never identified a suspect. The rest of the monument was torn down hours later, officially for public safety. And just like that, 40 years of mystery ended not with an answer, but with an explosion nobody has ever explained either. Among the most disputed entries in archaeological folklore, the Dropa Stones are said to have been discovered in the late 1930s in the Bayan Kara Ula Mountains on the border of China and Tibet. A set of stone discs, each with a spiral groove etched with tiny hieroglyphic-like markings, centered around a hole. According to the legend, later translations of the markings described crash-landed visitors from the sky. But here's the twist in this one. Nobody has ever actually held a Dropa stone. No museum has one in its collection. No photograph has ever been verified. The trail goes cold at magazine articles from the mid-20th century, most likely born from misreported artifacts mixed with Cold War-era pseudoscience. And yet the story never died, retold in books, documentaries, and late-night conversations for nearly a century. Which makes you wonder, is the real mystery the stones themselves, or why we've spent 100 years unable to let a story go, even without a single stone to prove it? This is the one we promised you at the start. In 1963, a man in Turkey's Cappadocia region was renovating his house when he knocked down a wall in his basement, and instead of more wall, found a tunnel leading straight into darkness. That tunnel opened into Derinkuyu, a subterranean city carved 18 levels deep, capable of sheltering an estimated 20,000 people, along with their livestock and food stores. The scale defies casual explanation. Ventilation shafts over 50 meters deep supplied fresh air to every level. Massive circular stone doors, operable only from the inside, could seal off sections against invaders. There were stables, wine and oil presses, churches, and communal rooms, all carved from the region's soft volcanic rock over what may have been centuries of continuous excavation, possibly beginning as early as the Phrygians in the 8th century BCE and expanded by later Christian communities hiding from persecution. What remains unresolved is not that it was built, but how a project of this magnitude, housing tens of thousands of people underground, was coordinated, sustained, and eventually forgotten, so completely that its own entrance vanished behind a village wall, undiscovered for who knows how many generations. 7 mysteries, 7 questions history still hasn't answered. Somewhere out there, a new excavation, a decoded manuscript, or a wall knocked down in the wrong basement could solve one of these overnight. Until then, they sit exactly where we found them. Proof that no matter how much we think we've figured out about the past, it's still keeping secrets from us. So, out of these 7, which one would you actually want solved first? Tell me in the comments. And if you want to go even deeper into the mysteries the ancient world left behind, you know where to click next.